Hello and welcome. Katie here. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a brand new set of products that are being released from Glassboard Studio today. And I've got a discount code for you to save some additional money. But I want to talk about what they are, why you may want to have them in your stash, and how I intend to use them. So let's hop down. We have the Mag Ink. Make sure I'm looking. Mag Ink tray. Okay, so what this is you get two in a pack, and they have these magnets, of course, that are on the bottom, but it's got like a grip to them. So let's say, now, real quick before I get deep into this, I removed my glass board, my large one that I use, this guy. Because if I put it in the frame, I've got my camera all the way up as high as it can go, that you wouldn't be able to see the edges for the other product that I'm going to use. But I wanted to also use something that was not magnetic. So let's say you work on a wood surface. What's great about these is that grip that's on there. It's not just a magnet, it sticks. So it's not going to move. In fact, let's toss an ink pad in there and we can test it out. Now, this is a VersaFine Clear ink pad, so you can see there's some wiggle room there. That's really not a problem, because when you're ink blending, and I'm hoping my microphone's picking me up, but when you're ink blending, you're doing a back and forth motion to pick up your ink. So you're not really going to be that worried about that extra space. Now, if you go side to side, even that still isn't bad. It holds in there. But I will say this, they are coming out with additional sizes. This is just the new product, first released. I think it's great, actually. I don't usually use things like this. But they were kind enough to send me a set to try out and share with you. So there's a lot of people that do use them. So it's going to hold your VersaFine Clear ink pad in there just fine. It may rock it back and forth, but you got that nice barrier that's going to keep that from happening. And they very well may come out with a size specific to the VersaFine Clear ink pads. It's okay if they don't, though, because it's going to work fine in there. Now, so you get two in a pack. So that's one thing I like about this. I'm not restricted to just using a glass mat or a magnetic mat. I can do it right on any type of hard surface, and it's going to hold in place really well because of that grip that's also on there. So that's the first product. And what's cool about it too is it's got a funnel. So you don't have to use this just for ink, holding your ink pads. I don't use a lot of gems and things like that. In fact, I'm trying to look around to see if I got a little bag somewhere. Oh, you know, we can use these. We can use the prills. These I do when I'm making flowers. So, you know, you can dump those in. One a little nutty. And then you've got this funnel here that's going to guide it. Make sure I'm in frame for you guys. I totally had to change this my film setup because the mat was too big. So my center is off. So, you know, you've got a cool little funnel here. And I like that the edges are raised just enough. But there's also this like extra little lip here. It's kind of like a dual lip. So it's not just, it kind of blocks it. So these little things that are going to come, you know, right on the side there, you're not going to lose those. Even though I'm just making a mess anyway. You're not going to lose those little pieces and little bits from tinier gems or prills, you know, that you might use. I should probably try and pick up some of these. So I really like that. The other thing that I'm probably more inclined to use this for is, I'm trying to find my dies. I had a little packet. Oh, here we go. So, you know, I usually keep my dies on this, but let's say I'm cutting, right? I've got my die cutting machine out, and I actually have a die set that I just used that I'm missing the little stem for the ornament. And you know, if I had a little magnet, and there's a lot of these, you know, you can buy these probably just about anywhere, the little magnet things, but, you know, I like this because it's multi-purpose. I'm not just, it's just not like a little magnet that I'm going to just use for my die cuts. I'm going to use it for containing my prills. I'm going to use it to, or any of my gems. The other thing is, you know, you've got these little ink pads. So I have to do a lot of pre-planning with my videos because I have to craft in 2 different places. And so that's why I haven't done a ton of videos. But when I do them, I have to pre-plan and know what I'm going to use. So when I come up and I've got these little trays that I can, like, if I'm going to use those for ink colors, because I do tend to use a lot of smaller size cubes or the dewdrops, for example. I don't generally have a ton of full-size ink pads that I use. That will come in handy to be able to just rest them on. Also, hey, you got a little with that little slot there, you can put your blending brush in there to hold it in place. Obviously, you can only do one that way, but, you know, it is a nice little tray that you could be able to put. I had one more floating around here. I'm not sure where it went. Oh, there it is right in front of my face. You know, so you have a little tray that you can put that on that will keep them contained. So I really like these. They're the perfect size for a lot of different things, and you're not just limited to your ink pads with using them. So the other thing, and I'm hoping that my volume's picking up because my microphone's a lot higher than normal. One thing I want to point out is full-size distress ink pads are not going to fit. They're just too square, and the way this is shaped is just not going to work. But let's say you like to use StazOn inks, going to work, fit great. Of course, Versamark, I don't generally do much ink blending with Versamark, so I probably wouldn't use that. But this size pad, this is what's important, is the size pad or container is going to work. Of course, your Delicata inks are the same size as your StazOn ink pads, so those are going to work good too. But let's go with some oval ones, because there's Catherine Pooler inks, Elements from Lavinia, and then scrapbook.com has, you know, these oval ones too. So these are going to work out well also. We'll just pop that in there. Let me make sure I got my yellow. Okay. Don't want to do any contaminating. We're going to talk about those little containers there in just a second. And I'm just using some scraps that I, you know, just to test it out, because I want you to be able to see that you can really get in there and not worry that your ink pad's going to fly off the edge or anything like that. Of course, you know, you can ink blend right on there. But let's do it here, because I'll move my thing over, make sure we're in frame. Because this is just Tim Holtz, the travel mat, the standard size studio mat is narrower, but it's the same length. So I wasn't gaining anything by using that one. So I thought we'll use the travel size. A lot of people have that. And it's not magnetic. And I wanted you to be able to see that if you use a glass mat that's not magnetic, you're going to be able to use this just fine. Use these magnetic things just fine, because it really does hold down. It's not just a magnet, it's got that grip there on the bottom. Okay, and then we got, I'm not going to put anything on that white pigment ink, but you can see, same thing, it's going to fit just fine in there. And it's got that, even though you've got that wiggle room there, it's not going to affect being able to ink up your blending brush or your foam tools. So that is the mag ink tray. I wanted to call it a pad. The mag ink tray. Really great. Of course, it's going to hold your dies in there too, which is good, because if you got little things, I mean, this is just a tiny little stick stem, and I don't know where it is. I'm going to have to really comb the rug to find it, because I don't know what happened to it. So let's talk about these little guys, and let me just wipe up this. That way we keep it clean. Now these little trays, these are called your craft catchers. They come in a set of 3, so you get like a small, medium, and a large. And the colors are all going to be the same the little magnetic pawns that they sell, that variety of colors. So you can pick any of the colors to coordinate with what you've already got. But these are not magnetic. They got a little grip pad here on the bottom. But what's cool about them is that they've got the little lip, and you can stick it right in there. Now, when I moved my glass mat, this is what was under it. All these little things, mostly garbage. I had a nice sentiment in there. I've been messing around with creating SVG word things. That was under there. So this way, now of course I scooted it out of the way, but you know, for the most part, when you're not doing it this way, you just kind of hold it. You can shove that all in. I'm not going to have that problem again. Maybe one or two little scragglers might catch their way under there, but that's what's cool too, is you got that lip. And it, as you can see, you don't have to have a Glassboard studio mat. Any mat that you might use that has a little lip for it to rest under and come flush with that edge is going to be great. Now, with those little grips on the bottom, this one's, I think, a little more flush, but you know, I wouldn't use it for anything other than holding things. So let's say I've got this, I'm using the big one. Actually, I probably would set up all of them, and I'd put the two big ones up front here. We'll move everything down a little bit so we can see. Again, probably not going to be the typical way that most of the crafters you're going to see sharing this are going to use. I'm going to use it to hold my blending tools, right? I've got little sponges that I use a lot. I can throw some ink pads in there. Of course, I've got this little guy here that can hold that. My glues, right? Now, my tools, I have this little roundy go thing here, but my microphones are in my way, so my eye is cut off because I have to have two microphones because of connecting audio and all that stuff. So that's in my way. So if I know that I need to use my, you know, your basic tools, you know, I'm always using a bone folder. If I'm using die cuts, I need a poker tool. When I'm using my wax seals, you know, use that to have my stuff set up. If I'm going to use, this is a new product from Spellbinders, but your oh God, what are they called? It's, you know, the mica powder. I just used it last month. Trying to see if it's, they're made by Jacquard. It'll come to me. But I think you get what I'm saying. They're the mica powders, loose powders that, you know, if you want to dust on. You know, having tools at the ready for me when I'm creating is important, because then I'm not trying to do this and find stuff. You know, if I need a ruler, you know, or, you know, my corners and stuff like that, I can kind of pull everything out and use my tray for those things so that I'm not trying to see around and figure out where they are. Now, my scissors I generally keep hung up over there, but, you know, maybe I want a little pair of scissors for quick cutting right at the ready. So, you know, I like that we get 3 different sizes. And of course, again, the colors all come the same, but you can also use these for your gems because it's got a nice little ridge to it. I'll bring this other one up because I don't know if I brought it up close enough, but you get this nice ridge on these that kind of holds everything in place so that, you know, you really got to work at it to get it out. And with this, I probably use this for my gems more than anything because I've got that funnel that's going to carry it right down into the bag or the, you know, the small plastic containers. You probably could do your embossing powder in it too. Have to dust off because, you know, embossing powder sticks to everything. But that's also an option. And of course, if you're embossing, you know, let's say you want that, and, you know, I have little mini ink VersaFines, you know, but it gives you an option to be able to have a variety of ways if you're messy. Like, I'm messy, but, you know, I don't know that I'd be that contained to throw it in a dish personally. But I just throw it on the desk or I throw it on the floor and then I pick it up later with the vacuum or whatever. But that's an option. If you like to be more contained in your crafting, you can have this for trash. You can have it so that you're just scooping up and tossing it away. I have a little garbage can back there. So it makes it a lot easier to be able to keep your stuff contained. But there's a lot of different uses for all of these things. And I like that these can go around the perimeter if I want. And that's going to keep I can keep the big one up at the front. I can put the little ones on the side. Generally, I got the die cutting machine over on this side. You know, so I probably have the littler guy over there just to, you know, have something. But I really do like the variety that this gives, and I hope you do too. 20% off right now. Use my code Eastwick. I think it's Eastwick 15. No S. Eastwick 15. I'll leave it down in the description box below. That's going to give you 20% off in the store for the next 2 days, the 23rd and the 24th of October. Use the code. It will work on anything in the store. So if you've been waiting to get your Glassboard Studio craft mat, grab it. Great time to get it because it's 20% off. And also magnets, if you need extra magnets, the little magnetic rulers, love that. Obviously this one isn't magnetic, but this is great because you got the ruler, 6-inch ruler, and then it's kind of got that same grip on there too. So you don't have to use it for you don't have to use that for a magnetic mat exactly. What else? Oh, the little puns, you know, your magnetic puns. And they have new ones that are kind of like blocky, easier to pinch instead of the sorry pawns. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to mention. It is great for mixed media scrapbooking. You know, if you're not minding a little stain or something, you could, you know, use this also for, you know, add some water with your inks and stuff like that, and you can use that in here. You could also line it with like press and seal so that you can clean it off real quick once you're done. If you like to keep your splatter stuff contained to where, you know, you're working on a wood surface, you need something to protect your tabletop, you know, you could do that too with these. And even those, because there's really these are really nice lips that they put on there to hold everything in place. And actually these little grips here work great on the side to hold your thing in place, so it's really not going to move on you. I'm really trying to scoot it. All right, you girl got to work at it. Probably see my iced tea moving. See, I'm really pushing on these to move it. So it's good grip, and you know, considering it's just these two little things, so I like it. And I think that you guys will find a lot of uses for these that even I'm not even thinking of right now. This is actually one of my favorites because it holds my dies. These little pieces that I'm always losing because, you know, I'm transitioning over to the bigger folders, you know, with the mats, the magnetic mats. But once you take them off there, you got to have somewhere that's going to hold them into place when you're using them. And these will come in handy. So 2 Mag Inks trays. It's Mag Ink, not inks. Mag Ink trays. You get 2 of them in a pack. Your craft catchers, you get 3, a small, medium, and a large in a kit. Now, pricing. Let's look at the price real quick. Okay. The craft catchers, these little guys, set of 3, $24.99, so you can get 20% off today and tomorrow. And then the Mag Ink trays are 2 packs again, and those are $29.99. And you get 20% off that. So use the link in the description box below. Take advantage of the sale, my friends. And that's going to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.